What's up everybody, Cloudchord here for Open Channels. Today we're going to be talking about mastering. I built a new mastering rack. The majority of this video focuses on features of Live 12, but for those of you not updating and you're still on 11, I'm going to throw you a bone, and in the download link there is a mastering rack that works for Live 11. So thank you for watching, please enjoy and check this out because there's a lot of new interesting tidbits. Today we're going to be looking at a mastering rack I built inside Ableton Live 12 that uses the Roar devices as an exciter. So my mastering template I've been using for several years, and pretty much everything that you hear in my music out in the world on Spotify, Bandcamp, vinyl, YouTube, live as well, I mix and master pretty much all of that unless it's on a compilation. So I want to share with you a little bit of my process of what the signal chain is and how I rebuilt what I do sometimes inside Ozone, Isotype Ozone, inside Ableton Live. So let's dig in here. Let's hear this pre-master. This is a song of mine called First Wonder that was on a chill hop compilation several years ago. And here's what it sounds like. No mastering. And I have an instance of Span here, it's a spectral analyzer. And I have an instance of Ozone just so I can see my RMS levels. And then I have an instance of Insight so I can see my LUFS, L-U-F-S levels. And if we look at the master here, it's a pretty quiet track in a good way. I think later on in the arrangement when it gets louder, we're peaking around 6. You can look right here on your master to see what your latest peak is. Great, now let's play the same thing, turning my master chain on. See my mastering is hitting 0. RMS is around -6, loop's around -10. Generally speaking, in Span, I try to have it a downward curve from the sub all the way to the high end. Depends on the part of the arrangement and the instrumentation. That's just a real generalization here. So these are the things that I'm doing. I'm looking at the shape of the master, and I'm also looking at the LUFS levels and the RMS levels. All right, so let's look what's inside of this mastering rack here. So we've got low cut and high cut. The first 5 macros are just right inside EQ8. So you see we got a low cut here. Then we've got a high cut, and then we've got a low boost. We've got a mid cut, and then we've got a high boost. Then we have a low exciter, mid exciter, and high exciter. So let's look at what that is. That is an instance of Roar. For those of you playing along at home, you can minimize all your third-party windows with Command Option P if you're on a Mac. That's very helpful if you got like 75 plugins up. Okay, so I'm just using Roar in a very simple way that's a multi-band way. So if you look over here, this is Roar down here. The routing says multi-band. So I have 3 instances of drive here. I have a low, a mid, and a high. And like I said, I'm using these as an exciter, which Isotype's Ozone has, where you can do multi-band exciting. If we take out our low, if I just bump it, you can really hear it. Look, if I turn it off, the bass goes away. Now you can really hear the mids cranked. And of course the highs. So you may be asking, how do we actually know how to set these different frequencies? Well, down here in the routing in the multiband, our low is below 120 and our high is above 2500. So it's these 2 numbers right here. So the mid would be between those. Okay, so that's our Roar. I'm not using anything fancy with LFOs or modulation sources because, like I said, we're using Roar just as an exciter, low, mid, high, which are mapped to these macros. Okay, after that in the chain is our
top widener. So that is going to widen only the top that is mapped to this macro right here. And you see it turns it on and it turns it off. And what's going on here is the wide channel is only above 1500 hertz. And this uses the delay, which is the Haas effect. And now down below 1500, there is no widener at all. So check that out, because generally speaking, you're going to want things that are widened to be up in the higher frequencies of your mix. See how that works for you. Then we've also got glue, which will just give us some general glue compression. Drive is actually mapped to the drive in the roar. So we have 3 instances of exciter, and we actually have an additional drive on that. One more thing I should mention, we have a multi-band compressor here. I use the multi-band compressor inside Ozone all the time. And these are mapped, you can see here when I turn up my low comp, it's really turning down the threshold. So for example, now my low end went away completely. Due to the high. It's a way to tame in certain frequency ranges, and just like inside roar, my low is below 120, my high is above 2500 hertz, so and the mids are in between. All right, then we got our compressor ratio, which is just the ratio of the glue of how hard that's working. I mentioned the wider. And then the volume is just the overall gain in the limiter. Okay, enough of the heady stuff. Let's actually just check out the differences in these presets here. So here's loud and clean. Yeah, that's real good. My loose, -10. RMS around -6, -5. It could maybe be a touch louder, but it just depends on how the overall tune feels. And inside span, most of my tracks, I try to have it go a downward slope from low end to high end. Generally speaking. See that? A little bit more bass, and it kind of rolls off. All right, bright and wide. So brighten that even more. There we go. It's widened. I'll resave that for you. All right, so look here inside Insight to our imager. We turn the widener off completely. It's only wide when the crash hits. I'll use the widener. Snares are a lot wider. You can see how it's the things that are higher frequencies. Okay, bass bump. Let's go to my Hermanos track, which is a very chill track, out on my Daybreak EP, which is out. Check that one in the comments or up here. All right, so let's hear, once the bass comes in, let's hear this just pre-master, no mastering. Quiet track. Now let's bring in the bass bump. Oh, that hits the glue a little bit too hard. But you know, you can use it sparingly. And then last but not least, phone mids. Always got to give you the AM radio phone sound. Okay, so in summary, y'all, this is what my general mastering chain is. It's EQ, multi-band compression, exciter, widening, a little bit of extra glue, and limiter. And generally speaking, my RMS levels, I try to hit around -6 to -4. -4 is really crushing. If you're making EDM, that might be a little different story, but I'm talking about, you know, the mellow, chill hop, lo-fi kind of stuff. And my loose tend to be around -11 to -9. -8 if I'm really crushing and it's like a big dance track. And as I said in my span, my spectral analyzer, try to have my overall EQ curve go from higher to lower. And check out some reference tracks to compare to see how it feels. I'm going to leave you with one final tip about reference tracks. I brought in my buddy Bureaucratic, his tune, just to see how my tune is matching up to it. Similar style, similar vibes. All right, so here's the trick I use to bounce back and forth inside the DAW. So Command K, if you're on a Mac, goes to this keyboard command, which is also right up here in this menu. All right, so we're going to solo up our reference track. So use any key. I'm going to use the number 1. And then I'm going to go into my mastering chain, and I'm going to turn off the mastering device with the same key. So they flip. And now you want to mute your reference track. So now here's what happens. We have our tune with mastering levels. And I hit the number 1, and it flips to Bureau. Now let's bring up Ozone, Span. Look at those levels. He's got a little bit, his bass is a little more reined in. He's just a touch brighter. So what we could do is add a little bit of high exciter. Press our low a little bit. Turn down low boost. Let's go back. So make a note of like where his low end is hitting. It's around -36 on span. Let's check out where ours is. Pretty close. All right, y'all. I hope that helped. Check out my new EP, Daybreak, link in comments. This one's a free download for y'all, 100% completely free, giving away the love for Live 12. Catch you next time.